Howdy folks, Doc here with Last Best Tool, and I'm going to do a couple of tabletop reviews, or I guess in this case picnic tabletop reviews. And today I'm going to look at the pistol grip snap-on needle nose pliers. Actually there are two pairs that they make. This is their kind of lineman style, kind of more grippy plier here, and then of course their needle nose. I'm going to compare them and show you a couple of the features. I've really grown to like these. Initially CP the Tool Addict had talked about these. I had gotten this pair originally. I wanted to try the kind of screw extraction capabilities of it, and then also maybe play around with some of the differences between reach, say between the long needle nose pliers, standard kind of, and then pistol grips. But what I'd like to do is focus on these two. I'll show you some differences and some similarities and some benefits, etc. Obviously both of them use the standard shape of the snap-on pistol grip. And this particular grip they seem to have kind of dialed in. This one's slightly smaller when I compress them, and that's probably because of the angles of the jaws here, that these close here earlier than these do. So these, if you look, close a little bit smaller, but that's about it. If I hold the pivot points in the same spot, you can see that there's basically a length difference. They pretty much are using everything exactly the same except the finish of the tip. And obviously they cut into the blade, etc. But everything else looks pretty much identical. The pistol grip pliers that Snap-on makes have a asymmetrical handle shape, and why that's important is some of the other pistol grip type pliers actually have some sort of a symmetrical grip, but your hand isn't, and I've gone over this in other videos. So this one, my hand just tends to slide up on it, whereas this one, they seem to have put some extra places to hold your hand in a position that allows good dexterity and allows you to control it without risking too much of your hand sliding. I do think there is some room for improvement here. Let me point out this before I forget. This needle nose plier, or excuse me, the flat nose plier looks like it has some sort of screw extraction capabilities. And I've noticed if you grab it right at the tip, you can get some purchase, but the screw is still pretty wobbly. You really have to go down into the center of this thing to grab it strong. And now it is in there pretty tight, but you got to go in a ways. So this isn't really, as far as I can tell, pushing the screw extraction the same way Van pliers are. If you want screw extractions, I think Van pliers are better, but this does allow screw and bolt holding. So if you want to get something in to a place, this does allow you, quite a ways of reach with good angular dexterity. Sometimes going in this way, it's a little rough, and then you have to spin the pliers. This is actually pretty good. The other thing I want to compare is kind of in length. This is Snap-on's. This is the 911 BCP. And basically this is a very long plier. If I hold it up to a tape measure here, you can see it goes out to almost a foot in length, and it has much longer jaws. So you can see the jaws here are over 3 inches, whereas the jaws here are just barely 2. So you're getting a full inch more of jaw here, and where that matters is if you're inserting this into a smaller spot, you can reach in quite a ways. Now this length is actually more in tune with this length. So if I line these two up, and by the way, these are very similar in dimensions here. If I line those two up, basically I'm just rounding down the handle here to grab it, versus if I line up the pivots here on this, you can see this actually extends out even further here, and then that much further on the front end. So even though, if I set these up against each other, they kind of look similar. in length. The operation is actually totally different between these two. So this one does not keep you from getting this, or this doesn't keep you from getting this. There are two total different uses. This one does have the ability to grab bolts and nuts, which is pretty amazing, you know, in a plier like this. So I've got a great big lag bolt, nice and heavy. If I grab it correctly, look at that. That is rock solid with a lag bolt that big. Of course, I've got a huge hand to grab this thing. If I put it on a smaller bolt, there's a smaller lag bolt here. Once you get it locked in so you have good grip, that's really solid. That's hard to do with any kind of a needle nose. The needle nose pliers just don't grab very well, and all things just flop around. It doesn't matter. So having smooth jaws, there's just no real good way to grab the wrench or the bolt. So anyway, I think these are all completely different pliers for completely different uses. And these particular pliers here is my Snap-on Pliers Grow. I'm starting to find some just nuances that make me appreciate them. However, some of them, like this one, is still pretty stiff, and this kind of angers me now. People are saying, well, once it loosens up, you know, it'll be better, silky smooth. No. Now that I'm up here in my, you know, mountain property, I was digging through a toolbox and I dug out these. These are a pair of lineman pliers, probably made somewhere between 1946 and maybe early 1950s. It's Kreuter, I think is how you say it. I was a German immigrant that started a tool company in the 1800s. And looking at the, you know, the kind of the history, this logo right here, it's a circle of information with the the company name, and then the product, and then USA stamped in the middle. That's probably somewhere around the mid to late 40s. So this thing, yeah, it's got some use, right? Look at that. I mean, that patina, that's rust. And that rust is actually, you know, showing us where there's some significant wear. Look at the cutting edges here. You see how deformed those are? And here, you know, that's from cutting a lot of fencing, barbed wire. Up in here too, you can see there's some significant wear inside these things. But look at this. Silky smooth. Even though these are offset, if you can see that, probably from prying on it with another tool, they're still rock solid and silky smooth. And they've been abused. And so I can't wait, you know, 70 years for my pliers, you know, to smoothen up when they could come from the factory perfectly smooth and rock solid for another century of use. So anyway, when I get a pair of pliers and they're just stiff, they shouldn't have to be stiff, and I don't believe it has anything to do with its future, that they're just too stiff from the factory. But I do like the steel. I am noticing I've had these long enough. Snap-on's notorious for having rust issues on their metal. Must be the you know, the particular composition, limited chromium or whatever. But anyway, I am still happy with these. I just know when I pick up my old stuff that I've got stored all over in other locations, just amazing, the quality. Look at that. Anyway, so that's my tabletop for these guys. I do think they're worth it. They are a little on the pricey side. They do fit great in the hand. They do operate very well for particular purposes. So if you're thinking about pistol grips, you know, definitely consider the Snap-ons. And with that, Doc out.